This is Geometry Section 1-1, identifying points, lines, and planes. So there's a lot of vocabulary in this chapter, so just make sure that you're keeping up with that. It's very important that you know all of those vocab words. So our first vocab word is point. The point has no dimension, and it's represented by a dot. So at a point, there would be a filled-in dot. Now usually when we're naming a point, you use a capital letter to name that point. So in this case, this would be point A. A line has one dimension, and it's represented by a line with two arrowheads, but it extends without end. So those arrowheads mean it goes on forever. So, for example, here is a line. Now there's multiple ways to name a line. You could have a small italicized letter. So for example, a little L there. And this could be line L. You can also name it with 2 points on the line. So say I have points A and B on my line. I could name this line AB, but when you name it with 2 points, you write down the 2 points and you put the line symbol over. So again, a line has 2 arrows on the end. You could also name this line BA because it covers the same amount. It doesn't matter what order the points are in. So there's 3 ways you can name a line. The small italicized letter, and 2 points on the line, and you can flip-flop those points as well. Last is a plane. A plane has 2 dimensions and is represented by shape like the floor or the wall, but keep in mind that it keeps going forever. So normally when we draw a plane, we draw something like this, but keep in mind that it goes on forever. Now naming a plane, it's either going to be a bold capital letter, so it's hard for me to write a bold letter, so it could be a bold letter. So in this case, plane P, and the P is in bold. Or you can also name it with 3 non-collinear points, so they can't be on the same line that are on the plane. So like say I have A, B, and C, and they don't form a straight line, I could name this plane A, B, C, or I can do any order, CABs, BAC, all of those. So you can name it with 3 points on the plane as long as those 3 points are not in a straight line. Our fourth vocabulary word is collinear points. So those are points that lie on the same line. So here's my line. A, B, and C would be collinear points because they are all on that line. Coplanar points, the same idea. Points on the same plane. So all inside this. So let's practice some naming of points, lines, and planes. So you can pause and try these 2 problems by yourself, and then come back and get those answers. So give 2 other names for line PQ. So make sure you're reading this as line since it has 2 arrowheads on it. So remember, one way to name a line is just to reverse the points. So we could have line QP. Now if I look down at this picture, line PQ is this line here. And there's a small italicized letter next to that line of N. So this could also be line N. So those are 2 other names for line PQ. Now they also wanted 2 other names for plane R. So we can see it's plane R because you see this bold letter in here. Now remember I said the other way you can name a plane is to give 3 points on the plane that are on the same line. So you have to just make sure they're on the plane. So we could do V, S, and P for example, or any order of those 3. Because those 3 points are not on the same line, but they are all inside the plane. So I'd like to do 3 different So I could also do V, P, and T, so including T this time, or any order of those as well. So the only combination I can't do is S, P, and T because those are all on the same line. So the next thing says name 3 points that are collinear. Well, I just said S, P, and T are 3 points that are collinear because they're all on line M. And then it says 4 points that are coplanar. So the only plane we have is R, and there is only 4 points on R, V, S, P, and T. So we would name all 4 of those to give me my 4 coplanar points. Okay, a couple more vocabulary words. We have a line segment, which most people just call segment. It's part of a line that contains 2 points called endpoints, and all of the points between those endpoints. So, for example, if I had a line with 2 points on it, say AB, I could name this line AB. Now what if I just wanted the segment? The segment is just the part from A to B. So you could draw that out separate, but you can also name segments that are part of the line. So say I drew it out separate, this could be segment AB, and instead of having arrows on the end, we don't, because segments start and end, so we don't have arrows because it doesn't keep going forever. Then we could also do segment BA, since that would be going the other direction. Alright, our next thing is rays, part of a line that contains one endpoint and all the points that extend in one direction. So ray is like a ray of sunshine. You have 1 point extending in one direction. So these could also be part of a line. This could keep going the other way. But if I'm just talking about the ray part, for this example I would call ray AB. And since it's a ray, you draw an arrow pointing to the right. Now this would be ray AB because it starts at A, its endpoint, and goes towards B. This you cannot switch the order like you can with segments and lines. If I wanted ray BA, that means it starts at B and goes towards A. So if I was having my A and my B in the same spot, this ray would go the other way. Start at B and go towards A. So just keep that in mind when you're naming rays. It gets one arrow, but the order is important. The next thing is opposite rays. Those are rays with the same endpoint but extending in opposite directions. So let's say I have this line with points A, B, and C. There are actually 2 opposite rays if we have B as my endpoint. So I could have a ray that's going from B to the left. Okay, and so in that case that would be ray BA, because it starts at B and goes towards A. I could also have one that starts at B and goes to the right, and that would be BC, because it starts at B and goes towards C. So those are opposite rays because they have the same endpoint B, but they're going in opposite directions. One's going left, one's going right. An intersection is the set of points all figures have in common. So for example, if I had 2 lines crossing, the intersection would be whatever that point is. I could also have 2 planes crossing. I'm not very good at drawing that, but let's try it. So 2 planes crossing, they actually cross at a line. So all the points on that line, and you'll see a better picture of that in your notes. All those points would be the intersection, and so forth. So a couple of examples. Again, pause the video and try these on your own, and then come back. So it says, give another name for line GH. So there's no small italicized letter on that line, so the only other name I can give is switching the order and doing line HG. name all rays with endpoint J, and then which are opposite rays. So if they're endpoint J, that means they have to start with the letter J, and they're raised, so they're going to get an arrow going towards the right. So J is here in the middle. I could go to the left and go JE, and I could go to the right and go JF. So those are opposite. I could also go down to H or up to G. So those would also be opposite, since those are going in the opposite direction. So we have 4 rays with the endpoint of J, and remember that endpoint has to go first. Alright, there's a couple other examples, so go ahead and try those. So name the intersection of line PQ and line K. So we need to find those two lines, PQ and K. So where do those intersect? Well, they intersect right here, and that is a point, and that point is called M. So point M. Name the intersection of plane A and plane B. So here's where I said you'd see a better picture. The plane B is this vertical plane, and plane A is this horizontal plane. Okay, and where do they intersect? They intersect each other right across here, which is actually line K. And then it says name the intersection of line K and plane A. And that one's kind of a tricky one because that's still line K. Oops. Because line K actually is inside this plane, so that intersects on that whole line. And that's it for section 1. Just again, be very careful with naming points and naming lines and rays and planes.